Let's talk print tracks. The print track can be your most powerful ally when mixing a song and a valuable part of your mix template. The term print is used to describe the process of producing a copy of the song with all of the processing printed into the recording. The advantage that comes from working this way is that we don't have to wait to make changes such as would be the case if we just performed a straight bounce to disk, which hijacks Pro Tools until the song plays out. I want to go deeper into how I use mix prints and talk about some of the advantages I find with working this way. As previously described in the last template video, we are trimming the song out before it hits the mix track, and from the mix track we are sending this to a master fader channel I have named Fades. This is where I either draw or record volume automation for the song's fade in and out, though I usually leave this until I get closer to a completed mix. This allows us to turn down the output of the song after processing has taken place, so that it doesn't mess with any internal balances happening on our mix track, and also lets us record fades directly onto our print track, making for a quick audio export later on. I like to start a mixing session by printing a rough balance at the beginning, because as we all know, mixes can become quite complex very quickly. Levels change, and the culmination of all processing decisions we make can completely change the song. Simply bypassing all plugins after an hour of mixing doesn't really represent where we were an hour before. So after I get a basic balance happening, I enable the print track, switch on input-only monitoring to only listen to what is feeding our print track, and then record a rough pass onto a separate playlist called Start. Remember to bypass the stereo and mono monitoring pass as we monitor the mix from our print track. The Start mix is just to remind us of where we began. I then perform a save as with the song name and suffix start, and perform another save as with the suffix mix1, so that I can start mixing the song and continue to hit Control or Command S to save my progress as I build up my first real mix. Why is this important? Because it means that we can always go back if we need to. We will now have mix1 and start sessions available to retrieve whenever we may need them. After mixing for a while, the song really starts to feel like something. It's time to print my first mix pass on a new playlist called Mix1, and then save it under the same song title and suffix. Importantly, I then perform a save as under the suffix Mix2, and the process continues in a similar fashion. So after repeating this process a few times, we get to the point where we build up a bank of multiple mixes, and here's where our diligence pays off. We can now solo our print track and expand the playlists out so that we can A/B very quickly between the different mixes as we play back. The perspective this gives us is priceless because it immediately tells us what we did right and what isn't working. You may, for example, say, well, I really like the bass sound on mix 1, my current mix processing has gone a bit too far, or I really like the vocal presence and tone on mix 2. Whatever the changes, you make a note of them and perform another save as with a corresponding playlist on the print track, let's say Mix 3. Working from our notes, you can easily import all the related tracks from our various mixes and delete any duplicate tracks, and thus start a new mix that incorporates the best elements of all our previous mixes. As we get further along in the process, we can utilize the print track as a reality check. It's so easy to get into a trance-like state after a few hours of mixing and kid ourselves into thinking that our mixes are just getting better and better. So the print track is a great way of giving us an instant perspective.
Save yourself, 'cause it's coming down. Yes, this whole thing's crashing down, but I'm not so worried. This I have often heard, and I've seen them run. Yes, I've seen
can really understand how all of those major changes, and perhaps what seem like minor changes, can add up to very different results for the song. And this is you educating yourself about which techniques you employ that work effectively and which ones are ineffective. We can also keep reference tracks on different playlists of the print track if we need to give ourselves a further reality check. It's possible now with clip gain to level match mastered material fairly easily against our own work. When you feel like you've lost the ability to hear how chains of processing are affecting the song, it's also quite easy to print the current mix without that processing and just use the solo and mute buttons on the print track with the appropriate playlist on solo so that you can A/B quickly between them. This is effective where you may find yourself having to bypass several plugins in one foul swoop, but keeping objective about the processing is disrupted, and so by the time it takes you to bypass the whole chain, you've lost your objectivity. So this is another way of overcoming that. And just while I think of it, going off on a slight tangent here, I have on occasion with some mixes needed to process the sections of the song in different ways. With this template, you could duplicate out the mix track several times to facilitate the ability to process, for example, the verses different to the choruses, or even each chorus to be different from one to the next, if you want to take it that far. So now, if you like, you can mix and match chains of processing from one song section to the next. Just be sure to mute all the mix buses that aren't being used to a common grid to ensure smooth transitions between processing chains. Coming to the end of your mix, carefully automate the fades at the start and finish of the song on the fades track. This feeds the print track and sets us up nicely to export our final mix to an audio file. If you're stretched for time, you can perform any final automation at this point. As you record onto the print track, just hit record and away you go. If you make a mistake, move back to just before the mistake to set up for another pass. Be sure to wait long enough in between punch-ins for any delay or reverb tails to dissipate completely, as these will be printed into the next pass if you hit record too soon afterwards. Lastly, once you are done, drag out the regions, crossfade if necessary, and consolidate the printed mix. No need to bounce out at this point. All you need to do is select the consolidated region, hit Ctrl or Command Shift plus K, and export the selected region as an audio file. I love working this way, and I hope other people find this template and workflow as useful as I have. Until we meet again, happy mixing. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for new tutorials, or would like me to mix your music project, please email me at yamahadrums2009@hotmail.com, and please subscribe to remain informed of future video releases.